And with that, number 10, Duke Thomas. Now I feel like this might bother a few people, but honestly, this young blood still has to prove himself in my eyes. There is absolutely no doubt he is powerful. As one of the only metahumans on the Bat Family roster, he is already naturally a cut above many others, but there are so many more that could bring him down without even needing superpowers. Powers don't always equal superiority on this family. Speaking of his powers though, Duke wields Ghost Vision, which he uses to perceive people and moments in the past and the future. He also wields a cosmic awareness that extends into other realities and has even used the ability to travel across dimensions by using light and shadow. He originally started as part of the We Are Robin movement but left and ended up making it on his own. Batman took him in, helped train him, and then sent him out to be part of the new Outsiders team with Black Lightning. Number 9, Damian Wayne. You see, the thing with Damian Wayne here is that he is just kind of a big old pain in any bat-shaped butt. By all accounts, Damian Wayne could grow to become the best Robin and even possibly the best of the Bat family. There is no doubt he has an incredible amount of skill, having been raised and trained by Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, the League of Assassins, and Batman himself. He is more than capable, but he is a child, and an incredibly obnoxious child who lacks any discipline, loyalty, or commitment, not to mention the fact that he lacks a real moral code of any kind. His arrogance and his youth are bad enough that they bring this little guy way down on this list, but give it some time, things may change. If y'all are enjoying this list so far, make sure you give it a like for part 2, or maybe even a list of Batman Incorporated members? Ooh. Number 8, Batwing. Luke Fox is not the first Batwing, but for a lot of us, he is the coolest one. Being the son of Lucius Fox, Luke is a tech genius, graduating a year early with 2 degrees from MIT. His tech prowess really aids him as he has an incredibly advanced suit of armor that does a lot. For example, the suit has a full faceplate, retractable cape, and an interior skin that monitors vital signs and enacts first aid, like hardening around broken bones to hold the bone in place and administering painkillers. It gives Luke a form of invisibility, detective vision, holograms, it can access the GCPD computers, features gyroscopic assist, a terrain map, shock charges, a kinetic patch, anti-personnel plates, and so much more. This is on top of Luke's training as an MMA fighter before his Batman training. Unfortunately, he just hasn't received a chance to shine on the spotlight yet and primarily works as a supporting character in most Bat family storylines. Number 7, Batwoman. There have been a few different Batwomen over the years, but the one who will always stick in most fans' minds would have to be Kate Kane. As a child of military parents, Kate has a soldier's mentality, which just adds to her amazing fighting skills which she has cultivated over the years, not to mention a deep, intense desire to be the best she can possibly be. She received training from the Green Berets, Navy SEALs, and Special Air Service, and the villain Shadow helped train her in vigilantism. Following Batman's disappearance after the Infinite Crisis, Kate Kane assumed the Batwoman mantle and stepped in to become Gotham's protector. Kate has even displayed some superpowers. At one point, an injury left her able to detect electromagnetic fields. Don't ask me how that works, I don't know. And in the future Imperfect storyline, she even became a vampire. Number 6, Tim Drake. While there have been other Robins, Tim Drake is probably the best of the best. Of those who have come before, over the years, he isn't the most experienced, he isn't the strongest fighter, but his stealth, his tactics, and his detective skills are on par with Batman himself. Hell, the whole reason he even became Robin in the first place was because he literally figured out who Batman was all on his own. Drake ended up becoming Red Robin as he matured and is the most level-headed and intelligent member of the entire Bat family, but he isn't a pushover in a fight either. He has received training from obviously Batman, but also Lady Shiva, becoming another one of the Bat family's most gifted fighters. He is one of the most unique members of the Bat family, and his costume as Red Robin? Gabella. Number 5, Jason Todd, the black sheep of the Bat family. While Tim Drake is easily the most intelligent, Jason Todd is easily the most brutish. He's a powerful heavy hitter, aggressive, and at the peak of human conditioning. Red Hood is a fearsome challenger, but when Jason Todd first popped on the scene as Batman's second ever Robin, fans hated him. It's one of the big reasons that he was very shockingly taken away in the A Death in the Family storyline. Luckily for everyone, he was granted a second second shot at life thanks to the Lazarus Pits, which also granted him near immortality and enhanced regeneration properties. Jason Todd has gotten a much better second wind under the Red Hood. Number 4. Batgirl. For a long while, Barbara Gordon was one of DC's strongest female characters, and even after Joker disabled her, her sheer determination still allowed her to become more powerful and one of the most powerful members of the Bat family as Oracle. Before becoming Batgirl, Barbara trained in Judo, Kung Fu, Eskrima, and Karate, among others, and after her paraplegia, her skills were only further honed by Kung Fu master Richard Dragon. As Oracle, she was the Bat family's girl in the chair, and she was invaluable in that position, at times being the literal glue that held together the Bat family. Number 3. Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson was the first Robin, and people loved him. He was an incredibly popular character, and the duo of Batman and Robin was iconic. But when Richard moved on and became leader of the Teen Titans, not to mention becoming Nightwing, he elevated to a whole other level. He has fought threats not just outside Gotham, but outside this planet. His years and years over other members of the Bat family give him a definitive edge that puts him almost on par with Batman himself. He's incredibly talented as a crime fighter, so much so that he has even elevated into the role of Batman himself on a few occasions. He is looked up to by all other members of the Bat family, is one of the best acrobatics in the DC universe, not to mention among the greatest fighters, and he's also my favorite. Number 2. Cassandra Cain. Dick Grayson may very likely be the best of the best in the Bat family, but there are 2 others who would still beat him down. One of which would be Cassandra Cain. She's the daughter of the most dangerous woman in the world, Lady Shiva, as well as the original orphan, David Cain. She was brought into the world and trained by the League of Assassins to be the one who is all and the ultimate bodyguard for Ra's al Ghul. She received even more training from Bronze Tiger, Merlin the Archer, Batman himself, Lady Shiva, Oracle, and Black Canary. She is scary. She has near metahuman levels of speed, immense resistance to pain, and she can read people's body language, which allows her to mimic anyone's fighting styles and predict their next moves. Literally a terrifying human being. Number 1. Batman. If you expected anyone else to take the number 1 spot, then just get the heck out of here. Go on. Go. He is the whole reason the Bat family even exists in the first place. He has trained every member to wind up on the group. He calls the shots. He is the Alpha. He is the Omega. For another member to wind up taking the Batman mantle is the ultimate honor, and very, very few have actually done it. He is the world's greatest detective. If it weren't for Cassandra Cain, he would easily take the title of world's greatest hand-to-hand fighter, and despite Cassandra's skills, he could probably still do it. His force of will alone is enough to land him near the top of this list. Batman is arguably one of the greatest superheroes, and as a regular dude who stands among gods, he has reason to hold that title. The Bat family is a network of like-minded crime fighters who operate in and around Gotham, with Batman as its head. But just who makes up the Bat family? I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd, and let's break it down as I attempt to explain the Bat family tree. Alright, so as the whole name of the Bat family might suggest, this group of like-minded individuals surrounds itself around one central person: Batman. First appearing in Detective Comics number 27 in May of 1939, Batman, as most of you know, has been a key player in the DC universe pretty much since it began. As for his family, well, let's start off way back in the good old first days, the golden age of comics. This is the Bat family as it was before the whole DC universe first got reorganized, the first time. So it's also, technically, in the modern continuity, the Bat family of Earth 2. So, when Batman first showed up, he was caped crusading all by his lonesome. No parents, no butler, no nothing. Bob Kane and Bill Finger, the Batman creators, alongside Jerry Robinson, decided that Batman needed someone else, and so they created the very first member of what would become the Bat family in the form of Richard Dick Grayson as Robin the Boy Wonder. Robin first appeared in Detective Comics Volume 1 number 38 in April of 1940 when his birth family, the Flying Graysons, were accidentally killed and Bruce Wayne took in the young lad and trained him on how to fight crime. Batman and Robin operated as a solid two-player team for a long while. Now back in those early Golden Age days, Batman actually became an honorary member of the GCPD, and with that, Commissioner James Gordon, who also first appeared at the same time as Batman in Detective Comics number 27, became part of the Batman family. Now you can kind of count him, you can kind of not. It really depends on the era that we're talking about. But not too long after these three were operating as a well-oiled unit, we were introduced to another pivotal figure of the Batman family. Quite possibly the sticky glue that holds these traumatized and broken crime fighters together. Alfred Pennyworth, Alfred Beagle, or simply Alfred the Butler was introduced in Batman number 16 in May of 1943, acting as the #1 supporting member of the team, or group, or whatever you want to call them. Now, following this period of time, we start to shift towards the Silver Age of comics, and that's when, thanks to public pressures and scrutiny at the time, Batman, Robin, and the Bat family were given 4 more allies in the form of a dog, Ace the Bat Hound, appearing in Batman Volume 1, number 92 in June 1955, a Batman-worshipping magical 5th-dimensional imp called Batmite, who appeared in Detective Comics Volume 1, number 267 in May of 1959, and the dynamic duo were given female love interests in the form of Catherine Kathy Kane, Batwoman, first appearing in Detective Comics number 233 in July 1956, and Betty Kane, Kathy's niece, and the first ever Batgirl, appearing in Batman number 139 in April 1961. Now, these additions to the Bat family didn't last incredibly long, as editor Julia Schwartz took over control of the Batman comics in 1964 and got rid of Batwoman, who was seemingly de-lifed, Batgirl, who retired, Ace, who also retired, and Batmite, who was expelled from this dimension, as he thought the characters were too silly, especially for the new stories he wanted for the Batman character. So instead, Schwartz worked alongside the 1996 Batman TV show producer, William Dozier, in order to introduce a new female character. Barbara Gordon, who first appeared in August 1951, was introduced as the new Batgirl in Detective Comics Volume 1, issue 359 in January of 1967. As the daughter of Police Commissioner Gordon, it improved upon the previous Batgirl and Batwoman and let Barb kind of stand as her own character, not simply as a love interest, which is usually a good thing. And that kind of makes up the Silver Age. The current Bat family members all started to make moves in their own ways throughout the Bronze Age. Other characters like the villain Catwoman, or Selina Kyle on Earth 2, the Golden Age character's Earth, became a solid romantic interest for Batman, joining the Bat family alongside their daughter, Helena Wayne, who would go on to become Huntress. But again, this would be on Earth 2 and therefore doesn't really count for what we're talking about. Now, Richard Grayson, who was Robin at the time, started to become a very important member of the Teen Titans, but that caused DC some problems as the Batman and Robin dynamic was also starting to become popular again. In order for the two things to be able to happen and work simultaneously, early on in the 80s, Dick Grayson became the leader of the Teen Titans and took on the name of Nightwing, and the new Robin was introduced in the form of Jason J. Todd in Batman number 357 in March 1983. Jason was the son of another acrobatic circus family inspired by the Flying Graysons. Can you guess what their name was? Yes, that's right, it's the Flying Todds. Ooh! The Todds passed away at the hands of Killer Croc, leaving little Jason to be taken under the wing of Batman and join the Bat family. Now, the issue of the two Robins' extremely similar backstories left Jason being a little overlooked, but luckily for him, and for any other continuity or character issues that DC was dealing with at the time, the Crisis on Infinite Earths event had arrived in April 1985. Luckily, the family still remained largely the same after this event. Jason's story was worked to be a bit better, and both Alfred and Commissioner Gordon became more frequent supporting cast members. Batgirl Barbara Gordon seemed to kind of fall to the wayside though, as writers couldn't really figure out what to do with her. It is in the late 80s that Batman stories really hit a turning point, with both Batman the Killing Joke in July 1988 and Batman A Death in the Family starting in December of 1988, where the Joker crippled Barbara Gordon and took the life of Jason Todd, respectively. From this point, the family surprisingly seemed to actually grow grow more, with Tim Drake being introduced as the new Robin after he deduces the true identities of Batman and Robin, which took place in the Batman A Lonely Place of Dying storyline from Batman number 440 to 442 in October to December of 1989. And Barbara became an information broker and Batman's girl in the chair as Oracle, fully revealed in Suicide Squad Volume 1 number 38 in February 1990. The next addition to the Bat family would be introduced in Batman's Sword of Azrael number 1 in 1992, where we meet John Paul Valley, otherwise known as, you guessed it, Azrael, who becomes Batman's apprentice and even takes over his role in the 3-part Batman Nightfall crossover event starting in Batman number 492 in May of 1993 that sees the Venom-enhanced Bane break Bruce Wayne's spine. Azrael really stirred things up as Batman. He was much more violent and unethical than Bruce is, and as such caused the Bat family to kind of break apart temporarily. Tim Drake went off alone, Jim Gordon stopped working with the Bat, and Bruce stopped being interested in recovering from his injuries, forcing Alfred to walk away from his position. But Bruce obviously recovered and took the Batman mantle away from John Paul and temporarily gave it to Dick Grayson during Batman Prodigal from November 1994 to January of 1995. Everyone went back to their original places and Azrael came back and would team up with Batman from time to time. 2 more members to the Bat family became introduced around this time as well. Helena Bartonelli, the daughter of a crime boss, eventually became the new Huntress in the post-Crisis mainstream universe, first appearing in Huntress number 1 in April of 1989. There was also Stephanie Brown, who was a friend of Tim Drake and daughter of the supervillain Cluemaster, who started off her vigilante career as Spoiler, appearing in Detective Comics Volume 1, number 647 in August of 1992. Gotham was struck by an earthquake and became a no man's land for criminals to run amok in Detective Comics number 719 in March 1998. And with that, the Bat family sprung into action. Helena took on the role of Batgirl to strike fear into criminals, but it resulted in a confrontation with Batman that Helena failed, so Batman instead handed the Batgirl costume and title over to a friend of Oracle who proved helpful in the start of the No Man's Land event. That would be Cassandra Cain. Cassandra is the daughter of assassins David Cain and Lady Shiva, and was bred to become the perfect killer, and she is actually one of the greatest martial artists in the world, even rivaling Batman. Alongside this new Batgirl, Batman called on all members of the current Bat family. That's Dick Grayson as Nightwing, Tim Drake Robin, Barbara Gordon as Oracle, Azrael, and even Selina Kyle Catwoman, alongside the Bat family supporters of Commissioner Gordon, Alfred Pennyworth, and Gotham City physician Leslie Tompkins. Together, they all successfully wrestled back control of Gotham City, so yay! That's good. After this point though, the team remained unchanged until the death of Azrael, which was really a turning point for the family. Batman distanced himself away from the team and started working with Sacha Bordeaux, Bruce Wayne's personal security and eventually Batman's crime-fighting partner, introduced in Detective Comics number 751 in December of 2000. The two are framed for the death of Vesper Fairchild though and go to prison, where Bruce escapes and Sacha gets blackmailed into becoming part of the secret organization called Checkmate. Now after this, a gang war breaks out in Gotham and Batman gets help from former League of Assassins assassin Onyx Adams, who helps out, becoming another member of the Bat family in 2004. This is also when Stephanie Brown rose to and fell from the Robin mantle and was seemingly killed. But not really. This led directly to Batman number 635 in February of 2005, otherwise known as the start of Batman Under the Hood, which saw the shocking return of an actually not dead Jason Todd as the extremely violent Red Hood, who joins the Bat family after causing them a whole hell of a lot of grief. From this point, we don't see any new additions to the Bat-themed family until Batman number 655 in September 2006, and the beginning of the Batman and Son storyline, which introduces Damian Wayne as the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. So yes, the addition of a surprise son left things a little tense in the Bat family, and when Batman was quote-unquote killed and sent to battle through time by Darkseid in 2008 to 2009's Final Crisis, it left a vacuum that became a battle royale across Gotham in the storyline Batman Battle for the Cowl. Some of the Bat family struggled to find the missing Batman, while others fought to take over the mantle. A final battle between Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Tim Drake ended up with a victory for Dick Grayson, who became Batman once again, promoting Damian Wayne to the mantle of Robin and forcing Tim Drake to become Red Robin. It's around this time we get an all-new Batwoman in 52 #7 in August of 2006. Now, while the Silver Age Batwoman was Kathy Kane, the new Batwoman mantle is taken up by the army brat Kate Kane, who is a lesbian expelled from West Point due to her sexuality. Now, she is Bruce Wayne's cousin through her father Jacob Kane, who is Martha Wayne's brother. It is after this that Stephanie Brown is indeed still alive, and she steps into the new position of Batgirl from Cassandra Cain, who went on to become Black Bat and haunts my nightmares. In Batman and Robin #16 in January of 2011, Bruce finally realizes that despite all of his lone work and brooding, he was never actually alone. So he decides to expand, and as Bruce Wayne, he reveals that Bruce was the beneficiary behind Batman's technology, and then Batman's reach would go worldwide as Batman Incorporated. But then we got the New 52 in September 2011, and it all didn't matter anymore. Essentially, New 52 for Batman sets him back to being an undercover urban legend, only being publicly active for 5 years. He has an alliance to Jim Gordon, but the GCPD are still hostile towards him. Dick Grayson still operates as Nightwing and was the original Robin, but never took on the Batman role. Barbara Gordon is Batgirl again, no longer wheelchair bound. Tim Drake is Red Robin and founding member of the Teen Titans. Jason Todd is still Red Hood, and he leads his own team called the Outlaws, and Damian Wayne is Robin. But now, to make things more confusing, in DC Rebirth in 2016 and DC Infinite Frontier in 2021, a lot of history is reworked back into continuity. So, to clean things up for the Bat family, during Bane's takeover of Gotham City, he snapped Alfred Pennyworth's neck in front of Damian Wayne. It broke the Robin, and he went rogue, leaving and eventually returning again as Robin. But while Damian was gone, Tim Drake took on the Robin role yet again. Barbara, who became Batgirl, stepped down to become Oracle again as the physical strain was too much on her spine. Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain stayed as Spoiler and Orphan respectively, but they were collectively known as Batgirls, which is confusing. And Kate Kane stayed as Batwoman. A new hero, the metahuman Duke Thomas, became the Signal and came into the Bat family starting as the leader of the 2015 We Are Robin gang. John Paul Valley stayed as Azrael, Helena Bartonelli became Huntress once again, and what may be a surprise to some of you, Harley Quinn also joined the Bat family, making amends from her time as a villain and under the very watchful eye of Batman. Number 10, Ace the Bat Hound. Of all the Bat family pets, Alfred the Cat, Bat Cow, Titus, Ace came first, and he wasn't just another pet of Damian Wayne. Not that there's anything wrong with that, I'm just saying. Now, Ace seems to actually be a name shared by many dogs who have worked with Bruce Wayne and his companions. When he first appeared in Batman number 462 in May of 1991, Ace was a shepherd type, and that's been the most popular breed, usually a German shepherd, but he was also a mastiff for a long while. The most recent and popular German shepherd, Ace the Bat Hound, was an attack dog for the Joker and was not treated very well. Luckily, this very good boy was taken in by Alfred and the Bat family. Number 9, Jarro. I love Jarro. If you have seen the newest Suicide Squad movie, the one with Idris Elba and John Cena, even though you can't actually see him, then you know who Starro is. He's that massive, terrifying starfish alien conqueror. He's actually one of the Justice League's earliest villains, and he poses a massive threat as he can use his drones to take control of an entire population, and he has subdued members of the Justice League multiple times. Well, Starro got ripped into pieces, and Batman took a piece and grew it into another version of Starro who was loyal to him and named it Jarro. It has all the abilities that Starro has and has also put the League under mind control, but in order to save them. It also calls Batman Dad, and it's just the most adorable thing I have ever seen. Number 8, Bluebird. I think Bluebird, or Harper Row, is looked looked over quite a bit when we talk about the Bat family, and honestly, it's understandable. She did actually step down from her hero mantle in order to get her electrical engineering skills accredited, which is honestly the most real-world reason for someone to stop being a superhero. But it was probably the smart thing to do because Harper Row here is a whiz with electronics and electrical engineering. She has used her natural aptitude to help both her and her brother survive, as well as assisting Batman multiple times without him asking, improving upon some of his tech and helping out Red Robin on a few occasions too, using her homemade advanced tools and weaponry. She's actually pretty cool in my opinion, although she did have a brief time being around. If you like comic books and superheroes in general, then you are sorely missing out if you are not subscribed to us here at Top 10 Nerd. We got lists, explanations, shorts, and we're constantly trying to find new ways to talk about your favorite comic book characters. Number 7. Lucius Fox. There are a few people without which Bruce Wayne would not be where he is or able to do the things he does. Among this very select group would be Lucius Fox. First appearing in 1979, Lucius was the second in command at Wayne Enterprises. He is an incredibly adept businessman known throughout the world, but he is also, privately, Bruce Wayne's private business manager, financial executive, and not to mention, armorer. And if that weren't enough, when Bruce Wayne decided to resign, Lucius was promoted to CEO of Wayne Enterprises and the Wayne Foundation. His power definitely comes from the power of the company, his connection to Bruce, his sons Luke and Jace, who isn't a member of the Bat family, and he does also have a military background, so there's that. Power isn't only about how big your muscles are. Number 6. Alfred. Look, I know he's number 6 on the second part of this series. Alfred is basically the patriarch of this family. He has a position that stands above pretty much everyone else. No one messes with Alfred Pennyworth, but that isn't because he will bring you down. It's because anyone who messes with Alfred brings on the wrath of the entire Bat family. If you hurt Alfred, you are simply done living. If Bruce Wayne doesn't crack and do it to you, someone else in this family will. And yes, before I hear it in the comments, yes, Alfred used to be in the army and was even trained as a member of the MI5 Nemesis program, and he has given Bruce a bit of a beatdown before, but I don't believe Bruce or any member of the Bat family could ever actually bring themselves to try and actually fight Alfred. He cares for them all, and they would all be lesser without him. Number 5. Stephanie Brown. I feel like there are mixed feelings on Stephanie Brown out there. She has had interesting history as a member of the Bat family. Originally, Stephanie fought against her father, the villain Cluemaster, under the vigilante name Spoiler. She would usually fight alongside Tim Drake Robin, and they had a bit of a relationship going on too. Batman eventually trained her up some, and when Tim was forced to step down thanks to his father, Stephanie even took up the title of Robin. But this was pretty short-lived, as she actually did not make a very good Robin. She was constantly disobeying orders and pursuing criminals on her own, which eventually led to her downfall. Thankfully, she did survive and even went on to succeed Cassandra Cain, becoming the third Batgirl. Now, the two of them, Cassandra and Stephanie, are the duo known as the Batgirls. Number 4. Huntress. Like a lot of the Bat family superheroes, there have been a few versions of Huntress. The original was Helena Wayne, the daughter of both Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle. Unfortunately, that character has not remained the Prime Earth's Huntress. Instead, we now have Helena Bartonelli, the only surviving member of the Bartonelli family. She has dedicated her life to a vendetta on crime after her family was wiped out by being a part of that said crime. She was actually incredibly ruthless, very much willing to take the lives of criminals, which brought her and Batman to odds a few times. But with that famous determination, Batman was eventually able to sway her way of thinking just a little bit. She was also done really well in the Birds of Prey movie if you haven't watched that. Number 3. Catwoman. Selina Kyle, while initially primarily a villain to Batman, has had a long, complex, and popular comic book history. As Batman's longtime on-again, off-again lover, she has a privileged place in the Bat family, but her allegiances are ultimately to herself, and her interests don't always align with Batman. Despite that, her tendency to usually do the right thing makes her a constant constant ally of Batman and his family. Her years of being a world-class criminal are thanks to her stealth, acrobatic ability, and mastery of martial arts, which have in more recent years helped her to fight crime in Gotham, turning her from villain to anti-hero, who is now accepted as a member of Batman's close-knit family, not to mention the Birds of Prey, the Outsiders, the Gotham City Sirens, the Injustice League, and the Justice League. It's probably also worth mentioning she is often seen as the best match for Bruce Wayne in terms of a romantic partner. Number 2. Azrael. Another hero title with multiple bearers. This time though, it's a little different. The title of Azrael belongs to the chosen warrior of the Sacred Order of St. Dumas, cloned and enhanced, subconsciously trained and conditioned, and raised to be a perfect soldier. The most famous and the one I'm going to talk about today is John Paul Valley. Once he became Azrael, Valley had encountered both Bruce and Alfred in Switzerland, saved them, and actually abandoned his own order for Bruce Wayne's moral values and went back to Gotham with the pair. He impressed Bruce Wayne so much within his time that when Bruce eventually had his back broken by Bane, it was Valley who Bruce chose to continue the Batman name. Unfortunately, this didn't go too well as he kind of lost his grip on reality, but he is an incredibly cool and capable character who has arguably gotten better in the more recent Prime Earth continuity. Number 1. Ghostmaker. Min Koa Khan, Ghostmaker, is essentially Bruce Wayne's rival from his formative years into the Batman mantle. Kinda like how in Pokemon games you always had a rival who you hate but kinda respect because they're always like challenging you and helping you to improve. That's Ghostmaker. Ghostmaker trained with a large number of the same mentors that taught Bruce Wayne, and it's arguable that Ghostmaker is equal to Batman. The difference between the two is mainly in ideologies. I mean, for starters, Ghostmaker is a psychopath. Bruce Wayne is not exactly psychologically sound, but he has a strong moral code, whereas Ghostmaker fights crime as if it's some kind of sport, and he has absolutely zero qualms with taking someone permanently out of the picture, operating mostly in Southeast Asia. He constantly used to try to get Bruce to see things from his point of view, which eventually led the two to agree to just stay out of each other's territory and out of each other's way. Luckily, he broke that pact after Joker War, and we got to see this guy come into Gotham disappointed with how Bruce had been handling things. Eventually though, they learned to work together.
Every member of the Bat family has gone through some level of intense trauma. They all deserve better, even the Bat Cow. But starting us off, number 10, Alfred. Alfred Pennyworth, quite possibly the most patient man on Earth. Alfred had to help raise Bruce Wayne in a lot of the Batman worlds. Not saying that that wouldn't be like a huge privilege, but look at him. Wayne is not always the most easy man in the world. Just being affiliated with a superhero or a billionaire, especially Bruce Wayne, is dangerous. Alfred unfortunately learned that firsthand. Well, many times over the years, but I'm specifically referencing the time that he was low-key Frankenstein and gained an evil alter ego against his will. It's a wild story, so some criminals set up a trap for Batman and Robin, but Alfred jumped in to save them and he didn't make it out the other side. A big funeral was held, a foundation in Alfred's name was created. Overall, that would be a beautiful ending for that character, so obviously that's not where it ended. This deranged man took Alfred's cold body so he could experiment on him with radiation treatments attempting to revive him. I mean, like, he was right because he did bring Alfred back, but they also completely messed him up. Once revived, Alfred became the Outsider, a pale stone man that feels Alfred's emotions but flipped. So if Alfred had hated something before, he now loves it, and if he really loved something, he now really hates it. So he hates Batman and Robin, and he wants to take them out. Thankfully, Bruce is rich and strong, so he stopped the Outsider and was able to hold him while he founded the research to find a cure. The cure technically worked, Alfred got his old self back, but it was still like in him and would pop out every once in a while. And that's just one example of the garbage that Alfred has been through. I know that he gets paid really, really well though, so maybe that makes up for it. Number 9, Jason Todd. Jason Todd cannot catch a break. An exceptionally difficult life marked by tragedy and hardship from a very young age. Originally a street orphan in Gotham's crime alley, he lost his mother to substances and his father mysteriously disappeared after criminal involvement. In reality, his mom was alive, and then when he did travel halfway around the world to meet her, she sold him out to the Joker, causing his first demise. Bruce Wayne found him attempting to steal tires from the Batmobile and took him in, training him to become the second Robin after Dick Grayson. Despite his efforts, Jason's life took a darker turn after the Joker incident, an event that also deeply affected Batman. But after being resurrected, he returned as the anti-hero Red Hood, adopting more lethal methods to fight crime, believing that Batman's non-lethal approach was no longer effective against Gotham's increasingly dangerous villains. Jason's complex history of loss, betrayal, and his struggle to find his place within the Bat family highlight how much he has endured and why he deserves better. Recognition, understanding, and a chance at redemption beyond the pain and anger that have defined much of his life, and also a hug. I think he deserves a hug too. Batmite is the ultimate Batman fan, which is like super relatable. He is described as being from the 5th dimension, he's been compared to a god, and is now used mainly as a hallucination, but he was once very, very real and did meet his hero. In fact, in many universes, he teamed up with Batman to help save the day. In some cases, he even bent reality to help Batman. I love Batman, but I can't bend reality, so I guess I'll just settle for second biggest fan. Batmite has been around since the 1950s. The first version of him worked alongside another being from the 5th dimension, but reading that gives me it just gives me anxiety to try and read it. Mr. Mixelplex, whatever you want to call him. These two guys were known for being a little bit silly and pranking Superman and Batman. Into the 60s, Batmite disappeared for a bit. He appeared a few times but was not as involved as he once was. Fans of Batmite were naturally pretty upset, so they started to request that he make a triumphant return, and so some Batmite-centered books were released in the 1970s. Into the 80s, 90s, Batmite slowly became less an actual character and more like a hallucination, paranormal, that kind of vibe. It was the early 2000s that brought him back to the regular canon. Batmite has appeared all over the place, not just on the page. Versions of him have appeared in TV shows and even video games. Number 7, Ace. Ace the Bat Hound. If there's an animal superhero, I don't care if they are the most loved character in the entire franchise, they deserve better. The most recent, most recognizable version of Ace the Bat Hound is probably the one from the 2022 animated movie DC League of Super Pets. Ace was voiced by Kevin Hart. Ace was Batman's first pet. He appeared in the mid-1950s in Batman 92. His owner got into some trouble with the wrong kind of people and ended up in the river. Despite Ace's best efforts, of course, he fought until he passed out. When Ace woke up, he did go into the river to find his owner, but he couldn't. Robin spotted the dog and Ace was picked up by Batman and Robin. They didn't keep the dog right away, they acted like the good guys and they put up signs all over town looking for his owner. Obviously, we know that the owner will not be coming forward until the end. Crime never sleeps, especially not in Gotham City. As Batman and Robin were racing out of the Batcave, Ace ran out with them. Instead of sending the dog back home to his warm bed, they were like, I like his enthusiasm, and brought that dog along. Wild choice, but it did pay off. They gave him his own little bat mask, he became the Bat Hound, and eventually helped Batman and Robin catch the criminals. Ace gets taken back in by his OG owner, but gets lended out to Batman and Robin occasionally. Later versions of Ace were owned by Batman or the Joker, or more recently, even Robin. Number 6, Tim Drake. Tim Drake might have recently had his debut in Fortnite, but I hardly think that erases the years of trauma, psychological manipulation, and injury that he's endured. His 16th birthday present from his billionaire father figure, mind you, was a nervous breakdown. Bruce had decided that Tim needed to take the next step in his Robin training, the next step being don't trust anyone and question everything, so he gaslit him for his birthday. He made Tim believe that he received a message from the future, that the family was going to fall apart if he didn't prevent it in the present, complete with a hologram from Alfred in which everyone's favorite butler ends up laser beamed at the end. Obviously, Tim kind of crashes out about this. He can't really trust anyone, he's chasing down imaginary leads, it's a lot for his age. Bruce, at the end of it all, kind of admonishes Tim for believing the prank in the first place. There's a line where he goes, I mean really, time travel? As if time travel doesn't happen every other weekend in this universe, as if the Flash, Bruce's own teammate, hasn't done that exact thing. And then there was the whole thing with Tim's bio dad, where Tim essentially was on the phone with him when he was eliminated, which is just really rough. And now people are mad he's in Fortnite over the other Robins. Please just give Tim Drake a break. Number 5, Cassandra Cain. Cassandra Cain is one of Bruce Wayne's many adopted children. Her biological parents were eliminators, and they raised her to be a weapon. So, poor girl. She shockingly did not like hurting people. She was horrified when she first had to end someone's life, and personally, I would be too. She then did, truthfully, the only thing she could, the only option that would work for her. She ran away to the Bat family, hoping that they could protect her. It's the Bat family, so of course they can, and she became the 4th person to take on the Batgirl name. This is such a good option for her. She was raised as a literal weapon, so she probably can't just turn those instincts off, and she hates ending life. The Bat family literally has a no ending rule, no matter how much a villain and messes up that city. It's perfect for her. When she ran away, Cassandra Cain, later Wayne, had only been alive 8 years, so 8 years. Cassandra's training to become Cassandra Payne was so brutal, human rights violations left and right, she was never taught to speak. Instead, the parts of her brain used to learn to talk were instead used to learn to accurately anticipate an opponent's next move so you could retaliate appropriately. There was a long time where she didn't read or write very well either, just because her brain was messed with so much, and that's just her New Earth origin. I do want to tuck her into cozy blankets and just let her rest for once. Number 4, Jarro. The first alien to become Robin, Jarro, a beloved but underappreciated member of the Bat family, is a clone grown from a surviving tissue sample of the villainous Starro and raised by Batman himself. Despite his origins as a conqueror, Jarro strives to be a hero, dreaming of fighting crime alongside his dad, Batman, and even considering himself the best Robin. Life for Jarro is uniquely difficult. He constantly struggles with the legacy of his villainous heritage, yearning for acceptance and a sense of belonging among heroes who once battled his predecessor. Though he has shown immense loyalty, courage, and even sacrificed his own happiness to protect the Justice League, Jarro remains on the margins, often overlooked and absent from recent stories despite his popularity with fans. Given his heartfelt desire to do good and the emotional growth that he has demonstrated, Jarro truly deserves a better chance to be embraced fully by the Bat family and recognized for the hero he has become, rather than the villain that he was born from. Number 3, Julie Madison. Bruce Wayne's former fiancée is the first woman to ever wear the Robin costume, so we are not actually talking about Selena Kyle. That is long before she was in the picture. Bruce was actually engaged to Julie Madison. As one of Bruce's first significant love interests, Julie has faced the painful reality of dating a man whose life is consumed by his secret vigilante mission. Her experiences reveal the difficulty of maintaining a relationship with Batman, who is often distant, secretive, and prioritizes Gotham's safety over his personal happiness. Julie has endured isolation, fear, and even danger, such as when she was manipulated by villains or caught in the crossfire of Bruce's double life. Despite the challenges, she has shown remarkable strength and understanding, and accepting the painful truth that Gotham needs Batman more than she needs Bruce. Her unwavering support and sacrifices highlight that, while she deserves better, a more stable life, one free from the shadows cast by Batman's relentless crusade. Even when she did try and live her life, the Batmanness still haunted her. She found her way onto Clayface's elimination list in Detective Comics 49, and it was also in this comic that she donned the Robin costume to fool Clayface, becoming the first female to do so. Number 2, the forgotten Robin, Carrie Kelly. Carrie Kelly, introduced in Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, has lived a life marked by hardship and neglect. Yet, she perseveres with remarkable courage. At just 13, Carrie grows up in a dystopian Gotham plagued by crime and corruption, with a school system and government that have completely failed its youth. Her parents, well, technically present, are so indifferent to her existence that they're never or barely seen and barely remember they have a daughter. Despite this, Carrie uses her meager resources, like saving her lunch money to buy a makeshift Robin costume, and takes it upon herself to fight crime, risking her own safety to help Batman and ultimately saving his life from the evil mutant leader. Her determination and ingenuity earn her a place by Batman's side, but she is constantly thrust into danger and often threatened with dismissal, forced to prove her worth in a world that rarely shows her compassion or support. And finally, number 1, Batgirl, the first Batgirl. The original Batgirl was not Barbara Gordon. It was actually Betty Kane. She was introduced and then forgotten just as quickly, only lasting 7 issues before fading away. She was a niece to Kathy Kane, Batwoman, and the pair were intended to be love interests for Batman and Robin. So, already, off to a really great start. The only reason the woman exists is for the man. Love that. Of course, they didn't last very long. And honestly, most people don't even know that Betty was the first Batgirl. As Batgirl, Betty wore certain colors to flatter her teammate Robin, so not because it was what she liked or what suited her. She really was, at the time, just an accessory to the Boy Wonder, but she did make a comeback in future comics, reimagined as her own hero, Flamebird.
Number 10, Triss Plover. Triss comes from a pretty dark future where all of humanity, it turns out, is living on a spaceship, destined to find a new home somewhere out in the cosmos to settle. The space vessel she lives on is known as Gotham, and she works as a farmer on the giant vessel. However, she ends up getting pursued by the authorities and decides to join the vigilante Batman. He tells her of the fact that there was a malfunction and their ship is actually now off course. Triss joins him as his Robin, and together the two of them manage to correct the ship's computer, putting them back on a proper course. Think WALL-E kind of, but if it were Batman and Robin teaming up to fix things instead of WALL-E and a reluctant Eve. Unfortunately, despite being a kind of cool apocalyptic future Robin, Triss still turned herself into the authorities in the end and was turned into fertilizer. fertilizer, after she realized that it would take over 300 years for the ship to arrive at their now correctly programmed destination. Yeah, that's gotta be a pretty depressing revelation. Number 9. Earth 2 Robin. The original Earth 2 Robin was an alternate version of Dick Grayson who never became Nightwing but instead continued on with the mantle Robin well into his adulthood. He fought crime alongside the daughter of Batman and Catwoman, Helena Wayne, also known as the Vigilante Huntress. Being that Earth 2 Robin was from the Golden Age, he's got a lot of weird knowledge and skills because, well, Golden Age comics, including medicinal and surgical skills. Thanks, Batman. He also was technically the original Robin despite now being considered an alternate due to a reorganization of the continuity following Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then again during Infinite Crisis, and then again following Flashpoint. Wow, that's a lot of resets. Though this version of Robin wouldn't be around to see all those resets, as despite his long list of skills, he died attempting to protect the newly formed Earth during the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. So he only lives on at this point in our hearts and in our old mags. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more bat lists, I want to give you those bat lists. So be sure to let us know that you like them by clicking that like button, and hey, why not share this list while you're at it? Help us find the people out in the world that also love Robins. Number 8. Robin 89. This alternate version of Robin made his first appearance in issue number 1 of Batman 89, a new limited series that takes place in the Burtonverse. One of my favorite verses. As a nod to the fact that Marlon Wayans was set to play Robin in the Burtonverse before Tim Burton left the Batman films, this version of him is black, which I think is pretty awesome. Initially, Marlon would have played Robin in the sequel, but the team actually decided instead to have him first appear in the third film. You know, the one that never happened, as Joel Schumacher then took over, introducing his own version of Robin in Batman Forever. We haven't seen much of this comic book version of what Marlon Wayans' Robin could have been, but what we did get is to see the mysterious figure who is Robin, likely still named Richard Grayson in this reality, take on Batman near the end of issue number 1 and hold his own against the Dark Knight. And so for that alone, and the fact that I'm really excited for Batman 89, I felt like I should include him. So hopefully you agree with me and you're also excited about Batman 89. Or if you're not excited, hey, let me know in the comments. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, you know what I mean? Number 7. Gotham City Garage Nightwing. Nightwing in this reality is known for fixing up bikes and wearing a leather jacket with no shirt underneath. Sounds pretty sweaty to me. He is recruited to help break into Lex Luthor's compound by Catwoman, and the pair of them are also joined by Kara. His skills here don't just include fighting and acrobatics, but also his driving skills, which are pretty impressive. Aside from that, Nightwing also has his tricked out bike, which adds to his power set. In this reality, he is rivals with Jason Todd, who himself gets his butt whooped by Kara. Nightwing in this reality is different in the sense that he is more selfish than his main continuity counterpart, and is willing to leave others behind in order to save himself. Number 6. Damian Wayne. What would an alternate Robin list be without a few of the main continuity Robins, of which we have a plethora of alternates already, as the role has changed hands throughout the years. I'm not going to list all of the Robins here, so if there's one that you're a huge fan of and I don't list them, please don't be offended, but I am going to mention a few that I just think are the most powerful and deserve to be mentioned, with some powerful Robin alternates from other realities and Elseworlds peppered in the mix there. Damian, of course, being one of those main Robins that I would like to talk to you about. Damian Wayne is another Robin who initially didn't have a problem with killing his opponents. This is due to the fact that he was raised among the League of Assassins, in part training with his mother, Talia al Ghul, herself a masterful and accomplished assassin and fighter. Damian has recently left the Robin mantle and his father's side to seemingly find himself in his own new Robin series. Although the series is called Robin, Damian claims to have turned his back on the bad and is looking to find out who he really is outside of his father's shadow, turning to his mother for some guidance this time around, and also looking inside himself, which I think, Damian's still pretty young, so that makes a lot of sense to me. Number 5. Deathlock. Deathlock is the Amalgam Universe version of Jason Todd. He is a combination of DC's Jason Todd, who was once known as Robin, Marvel's Midnight, and Marvel's Deathlock. In the Amalgam Universe, however, his name still remains Jason Todd, just to be clear. Jason was caught in an explosion and recovered by the villainous organization Hydra, who healed him and repaired him by turning him into a cyborg, making him into their agent and Deathlock. But prior to this, Jason was already a skilled fighter, albeit somewhat reckless, taking up the mantle of Moonwing when he worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. after Dick had left the mantle and S.H.I.E.L.D. to go attend university. However, Jason would later be dismissed from S.H.I.E.L.D. after making a grievous mistake while on duty, a mistake that even as Deathlok he still blamed his superiors for, confronting both Dick Grayson and S.H.I.E.L.D. director Bruce Wayne during a fight later on. Number 4. Jason Todd. When it comes to Jason Todd, he is powerful because he doesn't often hold back and he doesn't really give up. While he may have trauma that sometimes can leave him vulnerable, his redefinition of the Bat family moral code means that he's a touch more ruthless than your standard Robin. Okay, maybe a lot more ruthless. At least more ruthless after he left the mantle of Robin and became Red Hood. However, even during his time as Robin, Jason was a determined young man who, even when beaten, would never back down or give up in a fight. Currently, however, Jason is also a masterful sword fighter and weapons expert who is not afraid to kill those who get in his way, which is kind of what gives him an edge, I think, in comparison to some of the other Robins. Number 3. Robin King. Robin King is actually not an alternate version of any of our Robins from the main continuity. Gasp! Instead, Robin King is an alternate version of Bruce Wayne, who was inspired by a Robin's cheerful song at his parents' funeral in this reality. It was the young Bruce Wayne here who killed his parents due to the fact that he was inherently prone to violence and homicidal tendencies, even from a young age. Because this version of Robin is so murderous and dangerous, he could definitely be one of the most powerful Robins out there. Also, if you thought Jason had at times questionable morals or methods, the Robin King truly just blows him out of the water for that. Number 2. Dick Grayson. I think Dick has proven to be the most capable and powerful version of Robin that we've ever seen. This is likely thanks to a combination of Nightwing's personality and years of experience, considering that he was the very first Robin and has been around since the early days of Batman's vigilante career. He's also super flexible. I think he's also the most flexible Robin, which I know y'all might be thinking that doesn't equal power, but trust me, flexibility is hard and it is very powerful, I think. Do not underestimate someone who's very flexible. Dick even proved himself as a good fit as Bruce's heir when he himself took up the cape and cowl, filling in as Batman after he was presumed dead, but was really just MIA. Nightwing brings to the table not only his skills as a fighter and acrobat, but also his sharp wit as a perceptive and smart detective, as well as his forensic skills, or as I said once, his chemist skills. I called him a chemist once and people were like, that's not a thing. But he does have forensic skills, which is chemistry, so I feel like it still kind of goes hand in hand. I defend it. I would say when it comes to all-around Robin power, Nightwing is one of the most balanced, which generally gives him a leg up in comparison to the other Robins who tend to dominate in a specific area, but usually lack somewhat in another. Basically, they're usually really good at like one or two things, but everything else, they're fluctuating. And I feel like Nightwing is pretty much like here, like he's just really good at a lot of stuff. Number 1. Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer is probably the most powerful of the Robins that we've seen so far. He's also definitely the most metal. He comes from the Dark Multiverse, more specifically the Dark Multiverse Dark Knight's Metal series. He actually sort of has powers as well, coming with an electric guitar that also happens to be an axe. He plays it with a kryptonite pick, using its sound to create sonic blasts and even energy constructs. And okay, yeah, so he doesn't necessarily have powers, but he has a powerful weapon, so I'm gonna count it, because it's like magically powerful. Dragon Slayer's Nightwing, aka Richard Grayson, is definitely the most badass of all the Robins here, and despite his very brief appearance, is in theory the most powerful. At least his brief appearance by comparison to some of the other ones.
Coming in at number 10 is Ace the Bat Hound. Of all the Bat family pets, Alfred the Cat, Bat Cow, Titus, Ace came first, and he wasn't just another pet of Damian Wayne. Not that there's anything wrong with that, I'm just saying. Now, Ace seems to be a name shared by many dogs who have worked with Bruce Wayne and his companions. When he first appeared in Batman number 462 in May of 1991, Ace was a shepherd-type doggo, and that's been the most popular breed for Ace the Bat Hound, usually a German shepherd. But he was also a Mastiff for a long while as well, with no real explanation. The most recent and popular German shepherd Ace the Bat Hound was an attack dog for the Joker and was not treated very well. Luckily, this very good boy was taken in by Alfred and the Bat family, and he became the bestest Bat boy ever. Yes, he did. Number 9, Batwoman. There have been a few different Batwomen over the years, but the one who will always stick in most fans' minds would have to be Kate Kane. Now just to be clear, this is Batwoman we are talking about and not Batgirl. As a child of military parents, Kate has a soldier's mentality which just adds to her amazing fighting skills. She has cultivated over the years, not to mention a deep, intense desire to be the best she can be always. She received training from the Green Berets, Navy SEALs, and Special Air Service, and the villain Shadow also helped to train her to become a better hero. Following Batman's disappearance after the Infinite Crisis, Kate Kane assumed the Batwoman mantle and stepped in to become Gotham's protector. Kate has even displayed some superpowers. At one point, an injury left her able to detect electromagnetic fields, and in the Future Imperfect storyline, she even became a vampire. Number 8. Bluebird. I think Bluebird, or Harper Row, is looked over quite a bit when we talk about the Bat family, and honestly, it's kind of understandable. She did actually step down from her hero mantle in order to get her electrical engineering skills accredited, which honestly, that's the most real-world reason for someone to stop being a hero. But it was probably the smart thing to do, because Harper Row here is a whiz with electronics and electrical engineering. She's used her natural aptitude to help both her and her brother survive, as well as assisting Batman multiple times without him asking, improving upon some of his tech and helping out Red Robin on a few occasions using her homemade advanced tools. She's actually very cool, in my humble opinion, in her brief time being around. Number 7. Duke Thomas. Now I feel like this might bother a few people, but honestly, this young blood still has to prove himself in my eyes. There is absolutely no doubt he is powerful. As one of the only meta-humans on the Bat family roster, he's already naturally a cut above many others, but there are so many more that could bring him down without even needing superpowers. Powers don't always equal superiority on this family. Speaking of his powers though, Duke wields ghost vision, which he uses to perceive people and moments in the past and in the future. He also wields a cosmic awareness that extends into other realities and has even used the ability to travel across dimensions by light and shadow. Now he originally started as part of the We Are Robin movement, but left and ended up making it on his own. Batman then took him in, helped train him, and then sent him out to be a part of the new Outsiders team alongside Black Lightning. Number 6. Lucius Fox. There are a few people without which Bruce Wayne would not be where he is or be able to do the things that he does. Among this very select group would be Lucius Fox. First appearing in 1979, Lucius was the second in command at Wayne Enterprises. He is an incredibly adept businessman known throughout the world, but he is also, privately, Bruce Wayne's business manager, financial executive, and, not to mention, armorer. And if that weren't enough, when Bruce Wayne decided to resign, Lucius was promoted to CEO of Wayne Enterprises and the Wayne Foundation. His power definitely comes from the power of the company, his connection to Bruce, his sons, Luke and Jace, who is not a member of the Bat family, surprisingly, and he also does have a military background, so there is that if he's ever in like a little scuffle. It turns out that in DC, power isn't only about how big your muscles are. Number 5. Batwing. Luke Fox is not the first Batwing, but for a lot of us, he is definitely the coolest one. Being the son of Lucius Fox, Luke is a tech genius, graduating a year early with 2 degrees from MIT. His tech prowess really aids him as he has an incredibly advanced suit of armor that does a lot. For example, the suit has a full faceplate, retractable cape, and an interior skin that monitors vital signs and enacts first aid, like hardening around broken bones to hold the bone in place and administering painkillers. It gives Luke a form of invisibility, detective vision, holograms. It can access the GCPD computers, features gyroscopic assist, a terrain map, shock charges, a kinetic patch, anti-personnel plates, and just so much more. This is on top of Luke's training as an MMA fighter before his Batman training. Unfortunately, he just hasn't received a chance to shine in the spotlight yet and primarily works as a supporting character in most Bat family storylines. Number 4. Stephanie Brown. I feel like there are a lot of mixed feelings on Stephanie Brown out there. She has had an interesting history as a member of the Bat family. Originally, Stephanie fought against her father, the villain Cluemaster, under the vigilante name Spoiler. She would usually fight alongside Tim Drake Robin, and they had a bit of a relationship going on the side. Now, Batman eventually trained her up some, and when Tim was forced to step down, thanks to his own father, Stephanie even took up the title of Robin. But this was pretty short-lived, as she actually did not make a very good Robin, constantly disobeying orders and pursuing criminals on her own, which eventually led to her downfall. She ended up in the hospital, and it was really questionable if she would even pull through. Luckily though, she did survive and even went on to succeed Cassandra Cain, becoming the third Batgirl. Now, the two of them, Cassandra and Stephanie, are the duo known as the Batgirls. Number 3, Huntress. Like a lot of the Bat family superheroes that we have already talked about, there have been a few versions of Huntress. The original was Helena Wayne, the daughter of both Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle, and that character was loved. Unfortunately though, that character belongs to what is known as Earth 2, which is essentially the world of the original DC heroes, but she has not remained the Prime Earth's Huntress. Instead, we now have Helena Bartonelli. Well, sort of. We also have a Helena Wayne, but she's from an alternate future of Prime Earth. Are you confused? Because so am I. Let's just talk about Bartonelli. The only surviving member of the Bartonelli crime family, Helena has dedicated her life to a vendetta on crime after her family was wiped out by being a part of said crime. She was actually incredibly ruthless, very much willing to take the lives of criminals, which brought her and Batman to odds on a few occasions. But with that famous determination, Batman was eventually able to sway her way of thinking just a tiny bit. She was also done really well in the Birds of Prey movie, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. Number 2, Azrael. Another hero title with multiple bearers. This time though, it's a little different. The title of Azrael belongs to the chosen warrior of the Sacred Order of St. Dumas, cloned and enhanced, subconsciously trained and conditioned, and raised to be a perfect soldier. The most famous, and the one I'm going to talk about today, is John Paul Valley. Once he became Azrael, Valley had encountered both Bruce and Alfred in Switzerland, saving them and actually abandoning his own order for Bruce Wayne's moral values, and he went back to Gotham with both of them. He impressed Bruce Wayne so much within his time that when Bruce eventually had his back broken by Bane, it was Valley who Bruce chose to continue the Batman name. Fortunately, this didn't go too well, as he lost his grip on reality and fell from grace. But he is an incredibly cool and capable character who has arguably gotten much better on the more recent Prime Earth. Number 1, Ghostmaker. Minkoa Khan, Ghostmaker, is essentially Bruce Wayne's rival from his formative years into becoming Batman. Kind of like how in Pokemon games you always have a rival who you hate but kind of respect because they always challenge you and help you improve. Ghostmaker trained with a large number of the same mentors that taught Bruce Wayne, and it's arguable that Ghostmaker is actually equal to Batman. The difference between the two is mainly in ideologies. For starters, Ghostmaker is kind of a psychopath. Bruce Wayne is not exactly psychologically sound, but he has a strong moral code, whereas Ghostmaker fights crime as if it's a kind of sport, and he has absolutely zero qualms with taking someone permanently out of the picture. Operating mostly in Southeast Asia, he constantly tried to get Bruce to see things from his point of view, which eventually led the two to agree to just stay out of each other's way. This guy is very much rated, but for most fans of Batman, learning about Ghostmaker will come as a surprise.